think early on with the first couple injuries, I was like, oh, like I need to get back. I'm going to go to every road game no matter what, like whether I'm playing or not.
In a moment that sends shockwaves through the basketball world, Sophie Cunningham, Lexie Hull, and coach Stephanie White have all stepped forward with a heartbreaking announcement about one of the most talked about names in the WNBA today, Caitlin Clark. Known for her record-shattering performances and fierce competitive spirit, Clark has been at the center of headlines for her brilliance on the court. So, what exactly did they say about her? Is it about her personality or the game? Join us as we unravel the shocking announcement made by these icons, the press conference. The basketball world began the day thinking it would be just another normal chapter in the WNBA season. But something felt different. Early in the morning, quiet murmurs began to ripple through fan chats, sports shows, and newsroom corridors. Then came the news. An unexpected press conference had been scheduled. No reason was given, no details. Just 3 names attached to it: Sophie Cunningham, Lexie Hull, and Indiana Fever head coach Stephanie White. For WNBA fans, these weren't just names on a page. They were symbols of grit, skill, and leadership. Women whose lives were deeply tied to the game. And for them to appear together, without warning, meant something big was brewing. But nobody knew what was going on. As reporters gathered, the air inside the press room seemed to grow heavier. Cameras were positioned, pens hovered over notepads, faces were tense, caught between excitement and unease. Some guessed it might be about a new team initiative, maybe a charity event, or an inspiring community story. But when the 3 women finally stepped onto the stage, everything changed. Their faces were solemn, their steps deliberate. This was not a casual announcement. Something was wrong. It didn't take long for the first clues to appear. A single name surfaced, a name that had taken the league by storm in record time: Caitlin Clark. Her rookie season had been nothing short of electric. She had filled arenas to capacity, smashed attendance records, and turned casual sports fans into passionate followers of the women's game. Her dazzling plays were replayed on every sports channel. Young kids wore her jersey proudly, dreaming of playing like her one day. But beneath all the celebration, something else had been unfolding, something far less joyful. For weeks, Caitlin had still been the same fierce competitor, sinking impossible shots and carrying her team through tough matchups. But those watching closely had noticed subtle changes. The bright smile that once seemed effortless appeared less often. Her movements were just a touch slower, especially after grueling games. She still heard the roars of the crowd, but her reactions were quieter, more subdued. The press conference began to fill in the missing pieces. Sophie, Lexie, and Stephanie spoke plainly about the demands Caitlin had faced. More games, longer travel, shorter breaks, opponents tailoring entire game plans to stop her. Night after night, she faced the toughest defenders, the roughest double teams, and the constant physical pounding of professional play. And that was only the physical side. Mentally, the weight was enormous. Caitlin wasn't just a talented rookie. She had become the face of women's basketball almost overnight. Every shot she took, every word she spoke, every moment she lived was under the spotlight. She was on magazine covers, in commercials, and in endless interviews. Her fans adored her, but her critics followed her every move as well. Every mistake became a headline. The pressure never left her. Even when she smiled for the cameras, she was carrying the expectations of her team, her city, and a growing legion of fans across the country. Then came the part that made the room go still. The 3 women revealed that Caitlin had been playing through pain for weeks. They didn't share the exact injury, respecting her privacy, but it was clear. The relentless grind of her rookie year had begun to take a toll. She had pushed herself to keep going, refusing to let her team down. But the cost was getting too high. At that moment, the press conference shifted from a simple update to a united stand. Sophie Cunningham, Lexie Hull, and Stephanie White, rivals on the court but allies in spirit, agreed on one thing. This could not continue. They spoke not only about Caitlin, but about the league itself. The WNBA had grown rapidly thanks to stars like her, but its structure hadn't fully caught up. Players were still crammed onto commercial flights, sometimes arriving at games sore and exhausted. Recovery time between games was minimal. The spotlight had grown brighter, but so had the strain on players' bodies and minds. Their message was pointed but not hostile. If the league wanted to protect its future, it needed to protect its players. However, the news everyone had been waiting for came. After private talks between coaches, doctors, and Caitlin herself, a decision was made. For the rest of the season, her playing schedule would be reduced. She would rest more, play fewer minutes, skip games entirely when necessary. It wasn't an easy choice. Caitlin lived for the game, and stepping back went against every competitive instinct she had. But this was about more than one season. It was about ensuring she had a long and healthy career ahead. The three women stood shoulder to shoulder as they announced it, showing that real leadership sometimes means putting people above wins. And in that moment, the league, and everyone watching, got the message. This wasn't just about Caitlin Clark. It was about what kind of future women's basketball would choose for itself, one where stars are not only celebrated, but protected. When the conference ended, reporters left knowing they had witnessed a turning point. Fans began talking, players began talking, league officials began listening. Caitlin's rookie year would still be remembered for her breathtaking plays, but it would also be remembered for this moment. The moment when the game paused, not for injury time, but for humanity. Even though the day had begun with mystery, eventually it ended with a promise that the sport would not just grow in speed, but in care. So what did Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull say about Caitlin Clark's sudden exit from the All-Star game? Did it come to them as a surprise? Let's find out. Caitlin Clark, All-Star withdrawal. July 17th, 2025 was supposed to be remembered for all the best reasons. Indianapolis was buzzing with pride, ready to host the WNBA All-Star Weekend. Hotels were packed, tickets sold out in minutes, and every street banner carried the same name, Caitlin Clark. At just 23 years old, the hometown star had taken the league by storm. Fans weren't just coming to watch basketball, they were coming to witness history. Clark had already become a household name before even joining the WNBA. Her record-breaking run at Iowa left college fans amazed, and when she went pro, she proved what many already knew. She was something special. Fearless on the court, precise with the ball, and inspiring with every play, she quickly became the face of the Indiana Fever. Her rookie season was just the beginning, but by her second year, she wasn't just keeping up with veterans. She was outshining them. That became crystal clear in early July when she won the WNBA Player of the Year at the ESPY Awards, beating stars like Breanna Stewart and Aja Wilson. For someone so early in her career, it wasn't just a trophy, it was a bold statement. Her time had come. So as All-Star Weekend approached, all eyes were on Indianapolis. In the three-point contest, Clark was the favorite. In the All-Star game, she was the captain. Everything was set for her to shine. But then, the story changed. Suddenly and completely. Just days after lifting one of basketball's biggest honors, Caitlin Clark announced she was pulling out of All-Star Weekend entirely. No contest, no game, no appearance. The news hit like a thunderclap. So, why Caitlin Clark's sudden exit? Let's find out. The secret reason behind Caitlin Clark's unexpected withdrawal. It happened quietly during a tough game against the Connecticut Sun. Caitlin Clark, usually full of energy, began moving more slowly. A brief wince crossed her face as she clutched her side. At first, it looked like nothing serious, maybe just tiredness. But the whispers in the arena quickly grew into worry when she limped toward the bench, clearly in pain. It soon became clear she had aggravated a groin injury she'd been carefully nursing for weeks. Her coach, Stephanie White, told the public she would be checked thoroughly, but no one expected what came next. Only days earlier, Clark had been in the national spotlight, named WNBA Player of the Year at the 2025 ESPYs, one of the youngest ever to win the award. Now, she was out of everything. No all-star game, no three-point contest, no chance to shine under the home court lights in Indianapolis. On July 17th, her announcement sent shockwaves through the basketball world. Her message was short but full of feeling, just a few words and some heart emojis, telling fans how disappointed she was, but that her health had to come first. She promised she would still be at the event, cheering from the sidelines with the same passion she brought to the court. It was a hard but wise choice, showing her focus on the bigger picture, not just her career, but her team. With Clark stepping away, someone had to fill her spot. The WNBA didn't have to look far. Lexie Hull, Clark's Indiana Fever teammate, was chosen. Though she wasn't often in the headlines, Hull had been quietly having one of her best seasons, especially from long range. Her three-point shooting percentage was among the best in the league, and coaches knew she could handle the pressure. But behind Hull's confident game was a personal heartbreak. Just days before the announcement, she lost her beloved dog, Maggie, who had been with her for 14 years. Maggie wasn't just a pet, she was family. Hull shared the sad news online, posting black and white photos and writing simply, "The sweetest Mags, home won't be the same without you." Fans flooded her with condolences, but two replies stood out. One was from Caitlin Clark, who simply wrote, "Love you." The other came from teammate Sophie Cunningham. "No, Lex, I'm sorry. In a league where competition is fierce and pressure is constant, these small moments revealed a bigger truth. This team was more than just a group of players. It was a sisterhood. They celebrated each other's highs, but stood even closer during the lows." Hull didn't have to face her grief alone. Her teammates were there, in practice, in press conferences, in quiet messages of comfort. So when Lexie Hull stepped onto the court with a heavy heart, and Caitlin Clark took her place on the sidelines instead of leading on the floor, fans saw more than basketball. They saw heart. They saw loyalty. They saw what happens when the game pauses, but the bonds between players never do. What brought these legends together? Was Sophie Cunningham the hidden strength holding it all together? Let's take a closer look. The unshakable connection. Sophie Cunningham wasn't just known for her tough defense or her knack for getting under opponents' skin, though she was great at both. What truly made her stand out was her fierce loyalty. Earlier in the season, when Caitlin Clark took a hard hit during a game, it wasn't a coach or a referee who stepped in first. It was Sophie. Without a second thought, she rushed to Clark's defense, confronting the situation head-on. That move earned her a fine from the league, but it also won her the admiration of fans, who saw more than just a fiery competitor. They saw someone who didn't just play with passion, she protected with heart. From that moment on, Sophie wasn't just viewed as a teammate, she was a leader, the one who stepped up when it mattered. And her loyalty didn't stop with Caitlin. She was always looking out for Lexie Hull too, especially in the emotional days after Maggie's passing. Sophie quietly took on the role of a big sister, shielding younger players and making sure no one felt alone. Whether it was at practice, on the sidelines, or through private, encouraging messages, she was always there. Fans noticed the bond between Sophie, Lexie, and Caitlin. They even gave the trio a nickname, Tres Leches, after the sweet, creamy dessert. It was playful, but it meant more than it seemed. It stood for sweetness, strength, and three unique flavors that blended perfectly. Caitlin, the explosive star, Sophie, the fearless protector, and Lexie, the quiet warrior. Together, they became the emotional core of the Indiana Fever. Sophie embraced the nickname completely. She even had a custom shirt made with cartoon versions of the three of them. Bright smiles, bold colors, and all. The design went viral almost instantly, and soon fans were wearing their own versions to games. But the shirt wasn't just fun merchandise. It was proof that their connection was more than professional. It was a real friendship. Whether celebrating a big win or supporting each other through heartbreak, these three had each other's backs. Their bond wasn't built only in drills or game plans. It grew from trust, time, and shared experiences both on and off the court. To understand how this powerful trio came together, you have to look at Sophie and Lexie's journeys with the Indiana Fever. Their unity wasn't just about friendship. It came from shared battles, quiet determination, and an inner fire that can't be taught. Sophie didn't come to Indiana for a fresh start. She came to shake things up. After 6 seasons with the Phoenix Mercury, she was used to the comfort of familiarity. But that comfort had dulled her competitive edge. She craved pressure again. Indiana gave her that. A young team, a city hungry for revival, and a place where leaders could lead. She arrived loud, bold, and ready to throw herself into a new role. That fire had always been her trademark. Back in high school at Rock Bridge in Missouri, she bulldozed her way to 4 state championships. At Missouri University, she made 129 consecutive starts, scored over 2,000 points, and played like every possession was personal. The WNBA was a challenge, but Sophie thrived on challenge. She wasn't the tallest or the flashiest, but she was relentless. While Sophie brought fire, Lexie Hull brought precision. Drafted 6th overall in 2022, she arrived without much hype, but with a proven record. At Stanford, she had built a legacy of consistency, winning Pac-12 titles, making Final Four runs, and claiming a national championship in 2021. She didn't talk big. She let her game speak. With stamina, clutch shooting, and lockdown defense, she delivered when it mattered most. At first glance, Sophie and Lexie couldn't be more different. One bold and brash, the other measured and methodical. But together, they had chemistry. They knew how to carry the weight without asking for recognition. And when Caitlin Clark joined, a generational talent under the brightest spotlight, it was Sophie and Lexie who became her foundation. Sophie protected her. Lexie steadied her. Their bond formed in the grind, extra shooting drills, late-night hotel talks, and quiet acts of support no one else saw. Tres Leches wasn't just a fun nickname. It was a survival code. Caitlin brought the flair, Sophie the fire, Lexie the focus. Together they weren't just teammates, they were a force. But what made their bond unbreakable? Let's find out. Loyalty, teamwork, and loss. It didn't start with a big headline or a dramatic play. It began in the quiet moments most people never see. Caitlin Clark had just achieved one of the greatest honors of her young career. She was supposed to be at the WNBA All-Star Weekend, a stage she had dreamed about for years. But the dream didn't play out the way she imagined. Instead of lacing up and stepping onto the court, she learned she wouldn't be able to play at all. An injury had sidelined her. It should have been a celebration. Instead, it felt like someone had pulled the air out of the room. The disappointment hit hard, but what came next turned out to be far more powerful than any all-star highlight. Fans flooded social media with messages of love and encouragement, but it was her teammates who truly made sure she didn't face the moment alone. Sophie Cunningham had always been the team's emotional anchor, the one who could fire up a locker room when it needed energy, or soften her tone when someone just needed understanding. When Caitlin's spirits were low, Sophie didn't arrive with generic pep talks or motivational cliches. She simply showed up. She checked in daily. She cracked jokes to keep things light. She reminded Caitlin, without ever saying it directly, that she wasn't just a player, she was family. And then there was Lexie Hull. Just days before the Fever returned from a draining road trip, Lexie's world cracked quietly in two. She lost her dog, the companion who had been with her through nearly her entire life. That dog had seen her through the stress of high school, the pressure of college basketball, and her earliest days in the pros. Its absence left a silence that followed her everywhere. Her grief didn't make headlines. There was no press conference. But it was real and heavy. And still, Lexie kept showing up. She offered Caitlin the kind of gentle encouragement only someone who truly understood loss could give. No speeches, no grand gestures, just quiet acts of care, a hand on the shoulder, a warm smile when it was needed most. It was in those moments that the real strength of this team became clear. Sophie, Lexie, and Caitlin weren't united by a winning streak or fiery locker room speeches. They were connected by the small things, a squeeze of the shoulder before tip-off, a late-night text that said, "I got you," a knowing look that meant more than words ever could. Fans noticed. Not because of stats or flashy plays, but because of the way they carried each other through the hard days. It wasn't about who scored the most or got the spotlight. It was about love. Real, visible love. The way Sophie defended her teammates like her own family. The way Lexie kept showing up, even when her heart was heavy. The way Caitlin found the courage to smile again because of the people beside her. This was more than basketball. This was how the Indiana Fever built a culture of heart. Before Sophie's arrival, the Fever had talent, but they hadn't quite found their identity. The foundation was there, but the walls weren't built yet. Then Sophie walked in, not with a loud personality or forced leadership, but with a steady human presence that slowly changed the entire room. She came early. She checked on people without being asked. She made jokes that became inside jokes. She shared wisdom without ego, and something began to happen. The team, once scattered, started to come together. They weren't just playing like a team, they were becoming a family. Lexie's growth mirrored the team's. She went from being seen as just a utility player to becoming one of the most reliable shooters in the league, hitting nearly half of her three-point attempts. But her breakout wasn't just skill, it was belief. Belief that came from a locker room that saw her, valued her, and gave her the freedom to take her shot. That kind of confidence can't be taught in drills. It has to be built, one genuine connection at a time. When Caitlin's injury kept her out, most young teams might have fallen apart. But the Fever tightened. Roles became clearer. Trust deepened. Chemistry didn't just hold, it thrived. From the outside, it looked like survival. But on the inside, it was a transformation. One moment summed it up better than any press release. After Lexie's personal loss, Sophie didn't respond with polished sympathy. She showed up with raw, unfiltered care, the kind only true friends can give. Around that same time, Caitlin, despite her own frustrations, made sure Lexie knew she wasn't walking through her grief alone. That bond between the three, Clark, Hull, and Cunningham, became the heartbeat of the franchise. Fans could feel it. They gave the trio a nickname, Tres Leches. At first, it was just a joke, but it became something bigger, something fans celebrated with art, memes, custom shirts, and highlight reels. Sophie's Tres Leches shirt sold out in hours, not because of the logo, but because of what it stood for: community, loyalty, and joy. And it didn't stop with them. Younger players took notice. Veterans around the league did too. Free agents began circling Indiana, not just for basketball, but for culture. This was a place where you were valued not only as a player, but as a person. Their story isn't about overnight success. It's about slow, steady growth. About teammates who stopped acting like co-workers and started living like sisters. You can see it in the unspoken looks after a tough possession. In this way, Lexie can find Caitlin on the court without even looking. In the trust Sophie shows when letting a younger player take the final shot. That's not just strategy, that's the soul. It's the kind that beats like a pulse, louder with every game. So, what do you think about the surprising announcement made by these WNBA legends? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.